Hello everyone, are you ready for another adventure? It's me, Woki, and I'm back with another fake Grand Hoarder video. And I choked on some spit. What are we talking about today? Well, today is September 1st, and unless you're watching this on a later day, in which case it is not for you. But pretty close, we're going to be getting the Wandjina World Tour, because as you can see here, they've announced that we're going to have a stream focusing on the event, which they're calling the Great Spirits World Tour. It's going to be here on September 3rd. It's going to start at 6 p.m. PT, and then likely at 9 p.m. PT, we will go into maintenance. And from maintenance, about 4 hours later, around 1 a.m., the event will start, and there we go. So I figure I'm gonna look what's in store here, tell you what's going on. It should be a very simple, straightforward event. There's not much here besides the event shop and looking at some of the units. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So the Wandjina World Tour, like I said, or the Great Spirits World Tour, whatever you'd like to call it, is focused around the Wandjina. It will start September 3rd, though funny enough for me, after maintenance, it's actually September 4th. But for banner purposes, it's important to remember that technically it starts on the 3rd. The requirements is to clear Fuyuki, and then you have to take a note here, if you have not finished Tunguska, there will be spoilers for it inside. The best thing that you can do if you don't want to get spoiled is to skip it and then read it after you've completed Tunguska. And that's pretty tough still. This may be the hardest option to do because I know plenty of people who skip events and say, I'll read it later, and then later never comes. I'll say for those, I do plan to do a video talking about it, so if you just want to hear someone do it, I guess if you're lazy, you can do it that way. I would still suggest it's always good to read it yourself. It's better than listening to someone else read it to you. But if you have no other options, I will gladly give you an option. Here's the new limited SSR servant that we'll be talking about a little bit later. It's the Wandjina. Here they are, with their little koala buddy, very cute. The event schedule kind of looks like this. This will start on the 3rd, and at the first day of the event, the prologue, main quest act 1, and the free quest will unlock. And then it will kind of go like this until 6 days later. Let me just make double sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, so 6 days after the 3rd, it will be 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. It will unlock the epilogue and the free quest. The reason I said that this is such an easy kind of event, it means that you don't really have to do much, because you just kind of have to chill and wait for the free quest to get the most optimal grinding nodes out there. If you want to grind for the event CE a little bit early on, I guess you can, but there's really not much point because the event CE itself is just a damage bonus, so unless you are in need of a lot of damage bonusing, you're probably good to wait a little bit until some of the better grind nodes come out, or just like waste your stamina in there, however you want to do it. Considering that we have the raid coming up sometime in November, it's probably a good idea to start trying to save stamina where you can, just because most people would prefer to have stamina for when that comes. But yeah, very simple event, nothing too crazy about it, nothing that you have to really do. You just have to wait it out a little bit if you want to do your hardcore grinding near the end. The campaign, one of the campaigns in it is going to be login stuff, which we'll have until the 21st. So on day 1, Day 8 and Day 15, I should also say 21 days, not on the 21st. That's a little bit off. But anyway, on the first day, the 8th day, and the 15th day, you'll get a golden apple. And then all the other days, you will get silver apples. So make sure to get in there, because like I said, you'll be needing those apples pretty soon. 2 months or so away from that event that will require them. For the event bonus, 100% damage and 50% bond will go to Wandjina. They are the only one that has this. Next, 50% damage and 20% to all will go to Yagyu, Altera the Santa, Kriemhild, Aris, Rasputin, Tatsui, and Voyager. And the only member who gets 50% damage bonus and 5% to all bond to all party members is, of course, MASH. The event award CE is called the Method to Walk to the Stars, which is a CE that gives 20% extra damage against units with the Curse status, start battle with 30% NP gauge, and the event banished damage is plus 100%. Strengthening for my boy Voyager, he'll be getting an upgrade to Pale Blue Dot. It goes from B to B+, it will increase his AoE damage, and it also charges the MP gauge of the living human allies by 20%, which is a little neat bonus that he has on top of everything. Very cool. The event shop itself, we have for golden materials, cuddly koalas. For silver, it's kangaroo boomerang, and for silver, it is for bronze, it is the platypus cookie. This is a delicious looking cookie, by the way. I would eat this cookie. Wouldn't eat a boomerang. Unless it was a cookie boomerang. But this seems to be a kangaroo boomerang, so it's a boomerang made out of a kangaroo. That's messed up. Australia's a messed up place. Shoutouts to the 2 Australians that I know. Anyway, from the gold material, you'll need a total of 5,100 cuddly koalas to get everything in the shop. The things inside the golden section of the shop, the gold material section of the shop, is a Wandjina Simple Spiritron, the Wandjina Eye. You get this after you clear the epilogue. You can get 2 of the event CEs, a lore for clearing the epilogue, 40 stacks, no, there's 10 stacks of evocation leaves. You can get those 40 times, so that's a total of 400. I always trip up on this one because it's always a little weird. You're not getting 1 evocation leaf, you're getting 10, and you can buy this 40 times. 2 golden foes for attack and HP, 10 comet shards, 10 dragons reverse scales, 20 war horses immature horns, 30 of the Vestige of Madness, 20 Saber statues, 20 Lancer statues, 20 Caster statues, and 20 Assassin statues. And of course, once you've completed the shop, any excess that you have, you can trade in for 10,000 QP, 2 at a time. So if you only have 1, you don't get any QP, you can just hold on to that forever. Next, the Kangaroo Boomerang. You can exchange, for getting everything inside this section of the shop, you need 4,400 kangaroo boomerangs. What you can get inside it is, of course, 2 of the vent CEs, a crystallized lore, which will unlock after you clear the epilogue, the 10 stack of evocation leaves, but this one is 30 as opposed to 40, and this is true for the bronze one as well. And then a golden attack foe, a single one of them after you've cleared the epilogue. And then for materials, it's 20 of the Dawnlight reactor cores, 20 the Fruit of Longevity, 20 snake jewels, 20 meteoric horseshoes, 20 statues of Saber, Lancer, Caster, and Assassin. And of course, you can trade these up for cuddly koalas after you're done with everything in the shop. And you can trade them at a ratio of 10 to 1. So 10 kangaroo boomerangs equals 1 koala. The exchange rate of Australia, of course. And then for the platypus cookie, which is a grand total of 4,500. In the first set, it's the method to... Well, I don't know why I started calling it by like it's a its official name. The event CE, you can get 1 of them. You can get a crystallized lore. After the epilogue is unlocked, again, the 10 stack of evocation leaves, which you can trade up for 30 for a total of 300. HP golden foe, a single one of them. 20 silver foe for HP and attack. 55 EXP, 104 EXP, 103 EXP, 20 Yggdrasil seeds, 20 homunculus babies, 30 heroes proof, and 30 unforgettable ashes. So not too bad. I always need unforgettable ashes for anything and heroes proof, so I can take a lot of those. Plus the orb, the Vestige of Madness. I'll gladly take 30 of them just because I don't have very many of them, because it's a newer material. I won't get into the nitty-gritty on main quests and free quests, but you'll just know that they're here in case you're avoiding spoilers for anything, including what bosses you fight. It's pretty self-explanatory. Like I said, there's a total of 10 things because there is the prologue and then 8 main quest acts and then an epilogue, so that will be a total of like 10 things to kind of go through. Not too bad. In terms of the free quests, these are all usually pretty easy, especially when we have a CE that will be able to do bonus damage in the event itself. But the main one I'm going to be focusing on is just because it's the last one, which is the last 2, because these are the easiest ones to kind of farm, and they're the main things that you're going to be farming if you are of a certain level. We have this one, which is unlocks after the clear epilogue, which is first battle is 3 casters, the second battle is a Sphinx, which is just a single target caster, and then the final battle is 3 casters. So not too bad. The main drops from here are the Bell of Antiquity and the Scarab of Wisdom, along with some caster gems, a caster statue, and all of the materials here. 3 cuddly kangaroos, 3 of the kangaroo boomerang, and 3 of the platypus cookies. Probably not too bad as long as you have the right thing of a writer. Like a pretty good arts one could probably take this down if you're thinking about it. You could also multi-core farm it just because it's not too much to ask, I think. At least if you have decent enough MP levels, you can definitely take care of that first node. The second node, if you have a good single target, that can also take them down, and then the third one, Shouldn't be too bad. I wouldn't see needing the event CE for the first 2 fights if you have a good enough single target, and then on the last one is probably where you can use the AoE one, unless you have high NP levels, like me, in which case it doesn't matter. And then Traces of the Ephemeral Dream. This is the final one, is the big main grind one that not everyone is going to be able to do, so don't feel too bad, but I want to at least tell you if you want to prepare something for it. Hand over that Holy Grail, which is a boss with close to 300,000 HP. Battle Orochi, which is a boss with close to 400,000 HP. And the Holy Grail is only appropriate for my lord, which is a fight with Hephaestion, which is 800,000 HP. Damn. Okay. I'll have to think about this a little bit further. The first 2 aren't too bad, especially, I think it's probably worse. I was thinking probably I could do... a good and Castoria probably can do this for the most part. With the Event C, probably. If not the Event C, probably Black Grail if I don't need it. I don't know. I'll have to see and think this out. Pretender is a weird one for the final one. I can't think of too many ways of going about it. My main one that I would think of use is Summer Saber, just because I have her NP5, but there's probably other units that I can use. I just have to look at it and think deeply about it. So let me see, this first fight is against the Giant, so I could use someone who's anti-Giant. Orochi is a dragon along with a snake. No, it doesn't have dragon. That's funny. You'll see what I mean when I talk about dragon stuff. There are some snakes that are considered dragons, such as Ibuki, who is a dragon. So this one has a demonic serpent, anti-serpent. Unfortunately, we don't have the anti-serpent dudes. Oh, super large, so someone could potentially... Oh, I could use Don Quixote, if I could think about it. Alright, I'll think about it. Think about it more. But there you go. If you want to start planning your stuff out, you can start thinking about that from that way. And then we have the challenge quest, which again, I'll try not to look up too much about it, just because I like to be... I don't like to know what's actually in it until I potentially can do it with my brother. Though we haven't been able to film one in a while, but that's all because of me, because I haven't been grinding the events on an appropriate time and telling him. It's usually never my brother's fault, it's my fault. Clear Epilogue and Solomon, and you'll be able to challenge this challenge quest. So it's a nice little bonus thing at the end. And then we have the Summoning Campaign, which is near the end of the event. We have 2 Summoning Campaigns. That does not mean we have 2 banners. It means that we have 2 summon campaigns. So the first campaign is the one that features Wandjina, and they are with Kriemhild. And then we have Voyager, and he's with Yagyu Munenori. I had to listen to him say his name because I keep wanting to call it Munenori, which is not correct. It's Munenori, because he says, "My name, Yagyu no Taiga Munenori." And I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know that that's the way to say it. But good to know. I don't know if I've said it recently in a video, but I'll say it again. I am trying to go to Japan and learning a little bit more of the language, so I'm trying to clear up as many of the misconceptions that I have. So I've got, hopefully, getting slightly better with pronunciation of Japanese names over time. Not perfect, though, because I'm not perfect in any capacity. Ask anyone who's ever been bothered by anything. Someone most recently got angry that I called, not angry, but they were making fun of that I called Morgan, which is like, because they made it seem like I was saying Morgan, but I was like, do I really call Morgan that? I was like, sometimes I say Morgan, but then sometimes if I'm lazy, I probably go Morgan, but I don't know. You know what? It's almost midnight for me. I should not be caring this much about it. And plus, it was a simple joke that was not really... It was in good spirits as far as I could tell. And they were also genuinely being serious about Morgan. But anyway, let's continue on. The second campaign is the one that features Ozzy and Cleo, and they both have a featured 4-star, which is Naito Summer Naito. With Ozzy being first, and then here we see Naito Assassin, Summer Naito, and then 2 days later, Cleopatra shows up, and there is Summer Naito again. And then we can also see back here that at the beginning, it's going to be Wandjina, and they will be there with Kriemhild. And then 2 days later, Voyager and Yagyu. And then, so this will likely be 3rd, and then this will be the 5th. Go with that. And then the limited craft essences are Ref Rain, which is Buster plus 10%, NP damage plus 10%, gain 3 crit stars, and it drops a koala. The 4-star is Smile Knight, which looks like a Summer Siegfried CE that would be used for that, to be honest with you. Looking nice, too. Damage cut minus 300, NP damage plus 15%, and it drops a kangaroo boomerang for this event. And then still in the middle of the trip, arts plus 3%, critical damage plus 3%, MP gain plus 3%, and then drops a cookie. Very simple 3-star CE. Okay, in terms of what we're going to be talking about today as far as banners go, we're just going to be talking about Kriemhild and Wandjina. And then later on, I'll probably do a video talking about Voyager and Yagyu closer to their release. At least, as long as I remember. I'm not super busy this week. I promised I was going to make one for Gilgamesh, and then I didn't end up doing it. But it's okay, because for the most part, anyone who was summoning for Gilgamesh knows if they're going for Gilgamesh. I could have just released a 3-second video saying, yo, it's Gilgamesh, good luck, and then that would have been it. But anyway, let's talk about Kriemhild, which someone most recently told me that the way to say it is not Kriemhild, which is what I was doing it. Like, I was thinking it like the way the Kremlins from Donkey Kong. That's how I was pronouncing it. But they said, no, you can just say Cream. And I said, oh, thank you very much for being so kind. Thank you for telling me the right way of saying it in a nice way. So yeah, this is a story lock servant. The servant is locked until you complete Trom. So we have Kriemhild, and then she is a berserker with 1 quick, 2 arts, 2 buster, 3 hits on quick, 3 hits on arts, 3 hits on buster, 5 hits on extra. Her active skills are Revenge Plan, Rampaging B++, reduces all enemies' MP gauge by 1, reduces their defense for 3 turns, and then reduces their critical attack chance for 3 turns. The defense lowering is 20%, and the crit chance lower is 20% on a cooldown of 6. Her second skill is the reciprocated? No, that is not correct. Reciprocated Slaughter, A. Increase own arts performance for 3 turns, increase own buster performance for 3 turns, increase own damage against enemies with the chaotic alignment for 3 turns, 30% to arts and buster, and the damage versus chaotic enemies is 50% on a cooldown of 6. Her third skill is Affection of the Court Lady EX, a 500% chance to draw attention to all enemies to 1 ally by 300% for 1 turn. Don't accidentally give her this thinking like, oh, it's fine, this is probably a defense up. It's not. I did that once by accident and she got absolutely fucking destroyed when I did that. This is meant to protect her, not meant to 1v1 any enemies. At level 10, it gives her 50% to NP, and then the heal is 3000 on a cooldown of 6. Her 1 passive skill is Madness Enhancement EX. Her third skill is an anti-saber critical attack chance resistance, because fuck Siegfried in general, but, you know, what Kriemhild decides to do in the nature of her own home is up to her. Noble Phantasm is the Balmung Kriemhild. Exiled a Demonic Sword, the Holy Queen's Forfeiture. What the fuck? Forfeitur? This must be a German word of some kind. I don't know what this is. Forfeitur. Alright, so I went to go look to see what does she call it. None of her Noble Phantasm lines has the word. So you know what? I don't care. If they didn't even want the VA to say it, why the hell should I care? It's arts, it hits, it's A+, it's anti-unit, it hits 4 times, it removes 1 enemy's defensive buff, it activates first, deals damage to them, deals 150% extra damage against dragon enemies. At MP level 1, it's 900%, and if you get them all the way to MP level 5, it's 1500. Overcharge effect is reduce their arts resistance for 3 turns. This does not activate first, so it's after you've hit them. At charge level 1, it's 20%, and if you get them all the way to the final charge level, it's 40%. And then their Bond CE is something I could not care less about, which is not me, like, talking shit on her, on her Bond CE, it's what it's called. Increases party's damage against enemies with the chaotic alignment and the dragon trait by 15%. Not that they need to have both, but just chaotic alignment take 15% extra damage, dragons take an additional 15%. So if they're both, they're taking an additional 30%. And that's Kriemhild. How is she? I really like Kriemhild. The biggest downside on her is this part right here where it says this is a story lock servant. I think she's really cool. I like a lot of what she has, what she provides. I like the anti-dragon and anti-chaotic statement, the traits that she has. She's very good at single targeting down a single enemy if they have both traits. And if they only have one of them, such as Dragon, that's easily applied thanks to Georgios, because Georgios has in his Noble Phantasm can give anyone Dragon. So you can use Georgios and then hit him up with Kriemhild, and then Georgios can also protect because he is a defender, and when that goes down, Kriemhild can apply target right back to him, so she's protected for multiple turns unless they are doing multi-hits of stuff and whatever to him. I think that's really cool. She has a 50%, which is usually pretty rare for arts units. They usually don't have them, and it's actually good that she has it as a Berserker, just because Berserkers, I think, usually have not the greatest of NP gain. And for single target servants, it can usually be kind of a pain to get it back as well, assuming you don't have a multi-hit a Noble Phantasm like Summer Saber does. And she can do a lot of damage, a buttload of it, especially if she's fighting a dragon. For example, someone has told me before in the past, with the calculations correct, if she's at MP level 5, she can do as much or more damage than a same leveled Summer Castoria, but it has to be against specifically dragons. So under certain scenarios, she can be just as strong, which is pretty cool for a 4-star to do. Obviously, you need to fit it into the right parameters for it to get there, but the fact that it's still possible is still something to be applauded, I think. Again, the only thing that really holds her back is being story locked, because this makes it a pain in the ass to get more copies. So fun fact, one of the reasons why I don't know who to pick with the 4 selector ticket that's coming up is that I want more copies of her because of how much of a pain in the ass to get her is. But because she's going to be in a banner with Wandjina, and Wandjina, they are a unit I'm interested in because they work pretty well with Van Gogh. It means that I actually legitimately have a banner to go for her on it. Someone most recently talked about this because I talked about this with Bargus, where Bargus is usually on a banner that don't feature SSRs that I necessarily want, and it makes me, or sometimes she shares a feature with Tristan, which makes it bad to go for. And she has a solo raid up coming up with Melusane, and someone said, like, well, why don't you go for it? I'm like, well, I already have 2 copies of Melusane, but it's like, well, you can just give more copies of Melusane, but it's like, I don't really need more copies. I actually would prefer it if I just was able to get Bargus and she was on a banner with an SSR I don't have or something like that. But maybe that's just a weird thing, personal quirk of me, of that. If it was definitely someone who I planned to get to grand status or something, I definitely would be more interested in that banner. But that's enough about a banner that's not here yet. Kriemhild is a lot of fun. I like her a whole bunch. I like that she has a way to protect herself, which is nice. One of the big negatives is, again, that she's story locked. Another is that she has no way to revive herself. She has critical attack chance down, and she has this ability right here. But if the enemy ever gets a hold of her, they do a lot of damage, and a heal is not enough. That's definitely one thing that I'll say that is a negative for her, is that if the enemy gets a hold of her, she goes down, not too bad. But thankfully for her, she does have the protection of Castoria. She does have who has built-in ways of giving other people shields to protect themselves. She has a way to draw out enemy attacks, and she has a way to at least slightly reduce their critical attack chance a little bit. And if they're also Saber, you'll likely not take very many random crits from Sabers, because that's usually what ends up killing a lot of single target Berserkers, is that they just get randomly critted, and then like their entire generation just ends on the spot. But that's Kriemhild. I like her a whole bunch. I'm hoping to get more copies of her. She definitely would be a unit that I would look to get a level 120, but because she is a 4-star and she is story locked, you need about like 10 or so copies to do that, and it's just not easy to do with a story locked 4-star. I really wish it wasn't that hard, but they made it hard for some stupid reason. I don't know. Next, let's talk about Wandjina. They are a limited servant. They are a foreigner. They have an unknown gender and also the trait beautiful boy and feminine looking. Right on. They also on stage 3 gain levitating servant. They have 2 quicks, 1 arts, 2 buster, 4 hits on quick, 3 hits on arts, 4 hits on buster, 5 hits on extra. Their first skill is Droplets of Nature B, increases own quick performance for 3 turns, increases buster performance for 3 turns, grants self a buff on attack buff for 3 turns, grants self a Wrath of the Elemental buff for 5 turns when normal attacking, grants self evasion for 2 attacks 3 turns, 20% to quick and 20% to buster on a cooldown of 6. Their second skill is Blessing of Life B+, increases party's attack for 3 turns, increases party's critical damage for 3 turns, increases the MP damage of allies with the man attribute except for self for 3 turns, grants buff on defense buff to allies with the man attribute except for self for 3 turns, grants the Wrath of the Elemental buff to Wandjina allies for 5 turns when taking attack, 20% to attack, the crit damage is 30%, and the man NP damage is 30% on a cooldown of 6. Their third skill is the one who gazes at the aquatic star A, charges own NP gauge, charges party's NP gauge by 10% every turn for 5 turns, recovers party's HP every turn for 5 turns, 30% to NP, the HP regen is 1000 on a cooldown of 7. Their passive skills are Existence outside of the domain B, Magic Resistance A+, Cradle of the Star Seas, increases own NP damage by 20% when on the airspace battlefield. Their third skill is the Anti-Assassin Attack Damage Aptitude. And their Noble Phantasm is Wandjina Mamaragon, 7 stars. Don't know what that word is. There's so many words just appearing before me. Wandjina's Wrath. It's a rank B+. It's anti-unit / anti-army. It's quick. It hits 7 times. It ignores invincibility for a single turn. It activates first. Increases own damage against threat to humanity enemies by 50% for 1 turn. Activates first. Deals damage to 1 enemy and then deals 100% plus 10% extra damage to enemies, where its own Wrath of Elemental stack is count and its max 10 stacks. So this could go up to 200% extra damage to an enemy. At MP1 level 1, it does 1,200, and if you get them all the way to level 5, it's 2,000. Their overcharge effect is an increased own damage for 1 turn, activates first. At charge level 1, it's 10%, and if you get them all the way to the final charge level, it's 30%. They have an Ascension, which I mentioned earlier, which is the Wandjina eyes. Here they are with their koala and the 2 flowers over their eyes. And the bond CE that they have is the Wandjina Met. When equipped on Wandjina, I was going to call them Majima. Oh god, add Majima to the game. Okita Soji parentheses Majima. Increases party's NP damage by 15%, and then increases the NP damage of allies with the man attribute except for self by 50% while they are on the field. And that is Wandjina. And how are they? I really like Wandjina. Wandjina is definitely a unit that is not good at farming in any capacity. The reason is that it's the Noble Phantasm. This Noble Phantasm giving this much extra damage is really good, but it means that you also have to keep in mind the Wrath of the Elemental stacks here. And I guess it's a little bit different from another unit that I use for grinding, funny enough, is Super Bunyan, and Super Bunyan has something similar to this. But I think the main difference is that Super Bunyan, at least for them, their Noble Phantasm is like 2 seconds long, and Wandjina's is not. So it's probably a little bit harder to grind if you want to get the maximum amount of damage, unless you are in some very specific nodes and you're able to build it up, especially as you can see here. When it comes to what they need to do, it's normal attacking and yeah, also when attacking. So there you go. It can be a little bit tough for sure, but I think it actually, funny enough, it's easier to do than Super Bunyan. Though Super Bunyan has it just innately in a lot of what they do, and for Wandjina they don't. They have to have it on skills, and it will go away after the 5 turns are up. But thankfully, this is on a cooldown of 6, so it's not the end all be all. It's not the worst thing in the world to deal with. So that means that because they have these special little buffs that you have to do, you have to think about that when you are playing with them. So it makes it a little bit tougher for most people. I feel like some people are definitely a bigger fan of the simpler units that are able to deal a lot of damage, and then they get their stuff in and then they get out. There's nothing wrong with that. But for the people who, and maybe they see a unit like this and it's like, oh, it's a little bit too much to get their maximum potential, I'm not really down for playing like that. But for the people who do like playing like that, these type of units are really fun, and I really do think that you should give them a shot, if you're able to pull them, that is. Because I remember Hijikata was that for me for a long time, where Hijikata can do a lot of damage, but it requires him to be at the lowest HP that he can. And for the longest time, I thought he sucked, just because I was like, I'm not able to do anything. I was trying to play him like I normally would any unit, but someone who was a fan of him said, like, listen, I understand that it's frustrating, but I need you to give it another shot and focus in on specifically taking advantage of what they provide to the team and not trying to build them like something outside of that. And I listened to their advice, I did it, and we had a lot of fun playing with them. It was not easy. There were constant parts of the fight where I was actively going, oh god, if this just doesn't work out, it's not going to work out for me. But when we won with him, it felt amazing, and I think for that reason alone, units like this should exist for that kind of purpose. Another little thing that they have that's really cool is, thankfully, they have existence outside of the domain. What does that mean? It means that they can be used with everyone's favorite, Van Gogh. That's right, Van Gogh, who is able to buff the power of existence outside of the domain allies by 100%. So if you have 2 of them, you can give Wandjina 200% crit damage, and then you combine that with the fact that they are quick and they'll just be spewing out of themselves the ability to hit people with crit stars. You're going to be doing a lot of damage for sure. And not only that, Wandjina will be able to take advantage of that. Van Gogh will be able to take advantage of that. It sounds like a very fun team setup that you can do with them. So for that reason alone, I would be kind of going for it. Now let's talk about the regular average person, now that I've kind of talked about the reason why I would be summoning for Wandjina. If you are a newer player, should you go for him? I think the answer is no. Only if this is really a unit that's really for the people who dig them and have been saving specifically to go, I want Wandjina, I need them in my life, I love them, I'm gonna get them. That's the end of the conversation. For everyone else who is not to that level of dedication, who are like, I need them either for Van Gogh or because I like them in general, you need to skip, because for newer players, Castoria is coming up. That's going to be a way better banner for you because it's a lot easier to use Castoria in a lot of cases. Literally, when I talked about Kriemhild, I was talking about how useful she is with Castoria, and I think in general, if you're a newer player, you should go that way. If you're an existing player, like I said, it's going to really depend on how interesting does it feel like for you personally to play a unit like this. I can't speak to everyone. I think in a vacuum, a lot of units end up perfectly good, and this is definitely one of those units that I feel like is a very good unit and likely will stand out if you are playing with them in the specific way that you want to do it, but that is different from a lot of the big heavy hitters that are like, no, this unit just like shits on people. Like Summer Castoria, where it's like, there's no gimmick here. The gimmick is, I'm killing you. And that's it. So it's going to depend on you as a person, whether or not that interests you, and whether or not Wandjina is a servant for you. And that's it. All right. So like I said, I plan to do a summon video for Wandjina. I'll be doing it pretty soon. I'm going to have to probably either, I don't know, I'll look at deep inside myself and I'll say, do I grind out all these interludes that I really need to do, or do I just buy some stuff so I have enough stuff ready for Wandjina? I likely will just go 3 multis and then I'll call it as it is. I don't think I'll have very much to summon for, so I've already had a pretty good year as far as summons go, so I'm likely to just want to continue saving for Fate Samurai, but I would really like Wandjina, but also Wandjina would likely be a really good candidate to put up on SSRs for me, just because I make sure to get every beast unit. So I don't have to I have to have a foreigner of choice, and Wandjina seems like that'd be perfect for me, honestly. So I'll try a little bit for them, see if I can get them, get their little cute koala, and get to going. But that's the end of the video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one, and whenever it may be. If you made it all the way to the end, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I think I forgot to say it at the beginning, so the truly dedicated are here at the end. So to help out your boy, leave a like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to tell me what you are looking forward to, how you feel about any of the units inside, and I will see you guys in the next video, whatever it may be. Till next time, bye-bye. Peace.